Hi everyone, in this video we'll try to show you quickly of how to print a double number now instead of float numbers. So let's say you're working with large numbers, large decimal numbers, and you want to work with high precision. So how would you deal with those numbers? I mean, how would you print it first of all? So let's start a new file here. Okay, so dot data dot text. Now let's take any variables, and as I said in my last video, you can't just say okay, you can't say load immediately or load dot double, okay, in any registers, let's say F2, and you can't say 2.56 or whatever. You can't load an immediate float or double value into a coprocessor register directly. Actually, the keyword, the privilege for these kind of keyword, I mean, this privilege is not there in this ID. Might be there in other ID, but not in this ID. So what we, instead of we do this way, is like we can take a variable, let's say double one. Okay, so we just take any names and then define a data type to be what, double. So you can click on it or you can type it, and let's say you give a value like 2.156, like you can give a more precision value. So once you've defined a variable by any name you feel like, now let's say if you want to print this, and as usual I told you, whether you print a double or float, guys, the number first has to come in F12 if you want to print it. That's the argument register for float as well as for double. So how to do this? You can say load dot, since you're loading a double, so you say L dot D, okay, in F12. So you're saying, okay, in F12 I want this double one to come up, this value to come up. So this is the way indirectly you can put it in Mars. You can work in Mars with double numbers. But one thing should be cleverly understand is that double numbers cannot be stored in odd registers, guys. You can't store it in F1. You can't store in F3. You can't store in F5. You have to store in all the even registers. And the reason behind is that when you store double, they take up space the whole of F0. Let's say you're storing in F0. So they take up whole of F0 as well as they take whole of F1 to store it. So that's why the next float number should not come in F1. It should come in F2 or F4 or F6. But whereas float, when you store float numbers, they only take only one part of this, like say F0 or F1 or F2. That's why you can store any way you feel like. But double has to be in even registers. So first of all, whatever you want to print it, load it into F12. Okay, and then in order to tell the computer that I want to print a float or double, what is the code for the double? Syscall code is 3 now this time. Okay, so, and remember again that double has to be loaded in F12, which we have already done it. We have loaded the double, whatever we want to print is already loaded in F12. So I'll just say li in function register v0. The moment I say 3, so indirectly you're telling the computer, okay, to print what, double. Which double? The double which, this double one which you have loaded in F12. But they won't do any action unless you say syscall. The moment you say syscall, computer will print this one. Now let me clear this file, save it. I'll say this is to print a double. Now we save it, run it, and yeah, we run it and see, you get a more precision numbers up to what they said, 856, the last 3 digits, 856, and we gave here 856. Now after this, they cannot print it up. Now if you need more than that, of course, you don't have a direct privilege in Mars, but we still can do it by writing a very complex programming. But that requires a little bit of a more skills, programming skills of how to deal with more bigger numbers. But right now, this moment in double, there's a privilege that you can stop there or you can't go more than that. Now I think it's like 9856 still there. Yeah, it's coming till there. Now let's say if I want some more bigger numbers like this, let's have a look. Save it, assemble it, run it. So see, now it's giving till 655. That means till 6, most probably 655 is coming till there. Okay, they're rounding. After that, they're not printing anymore. So still you're getting a quite good precision, but if you need more than that, no. So it's not possible right now in this. Okay, so this is how I showed you to print double numbers. Okay, but just remember again before closing this video is that float numbers, double numbers, okay, should be stored in even registers, not in odd registers. Like for example, let's say for example, I'll say, okay, load this into F11, for example. Okay, I'm just loading in F11. But you might say, okay, to print, it has to be in F12. Well, we can move it. We can tell them to move from dot double. Okay, when you want to move from one register to another register, guys, you can use the move command. But since it's a double value, so you can say move dot double. So I'll say, okay, I can say, okay, move from 11 to F12, and then you're telling the function call as 3 to print float, and then saying, so basically you're doing the same thing, but you're doing it in a different way. So you're loading this value, okay, in F11 first. And the reason why I'm showing in for you is that look what they're going to give you if you try to store a double in odd registers, because the requirement is you have to store in even registers. So, and after loading in F11, but in order to print, we know that it has to be in F12. So I moved it from F11 to F12, and then I'm telling them to print this. So see what happens. So when I run this one and compile it, you see what it gives. To print runtime exception, this one. First register must be what? Even numbered. So they're giving you a thing that this cannot be odd register. It has to be even. Okay, so that's why you can make it F12 or F14 or F2 or whatever, okay, depending on your thing here. So now when it's already in 12, when we are loading in already in 12, I don't need to move it. We're just going to print this to get the answer. So once you assemble it and run it, you see the answers coming exactly. Okay, so make sure the double has to be stored in, again, in even registers, not in odd registers. But a float can be stored anyway. But final to cover this, remember, whenever you want to print a float or a double, it has to first get stored in, you have to move it wherever it might be there, either in any variable or in any registers. Make sure before you print float or double numbers, it has to be in F12. That's the argument register for the float and double. So once it's there, then you give a appropriate system call. Okay, appropriate system call, and they will do the job for you. Okay, so check out for more videos to learn more thing in our, let's say in the next video, we'll try to go to a small programming dealing with float numbers or integers numbers.